people have this misnomer, this fallacy that DEI is like some kind of, you just got some folks you trying to bring in the door.
Going from being a ghetto to being a corporate, you know what I'm saying? Like, really having to like learn how to pronunciate words, and I still don't really, I'm really not all the way good at it.
And like all of a sudden they're gonna be a CEO and they can barely spell chief.
Now, and where the
they definitely can't spell executive. You know, I mean, that's not how it works. I'm like, DEI at essentially is making sure that qualified people, and I hate when I even have to say that, especially to a Black audience, because I'm like, if y'all think that people are being put in positions that are not qualified, I want you to check your own bias and racism at the door, self-hate, because I'm like, let me tell you, most of the time we have to work harder and have to be smarter, and stats prove that out. We have to have more education to get the same job that Timmy got. We have to have more experience and more education, and we still get paid less.
Hey, everybody. I'm really excited about today's conversation. I'm sure by now you guys have all heard about just the controversy around DEI. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misconception, and just a whole bunch of different nonsense going on about this, the whole idea. So I brought on a dear friend, a sister of mine who has been actively working in the DEI space for years now. And I thought she would be a great reference and really help us understand what it is, what it's about, and how it is impacting the day-to-day lives of Black folks like you today. So I'm really excited about this conversation, and tune in. So April, would you like to tell us more about yourself, what you do, and just anything you think we should know about DEI?
Okay. Well, that's a big opening, Chardé.
Right.
But about myself. Well, I'm April, as you can see, and I have been working in the DEI space for years. And I will not totally age myself, but I was working in the space when it was called multiculturalism, in some form and fashion, in the university setting. But by background, I have a Juris Doctorate from Hastings College of the Law. I have a master's in public administration or public policy. And I have an undergraduate degree in American ethnic studies with a focus on African American studies and political science. That is my professional resume, but I have led DEI in a number of high corporate spaces. And so I see the impact and effects of DEI. I see the good, and I've seen the not good stuff too, if I'm being honest. So we can have that conversation. And personally, just so, because I know your audience may be like, okay, who is this? I am married.
She is.
I am married. I've been married for 19 years. It'll be 20 in February, to a wonderful Jamaican American man, and I have 2 children, 11 and 9, 2 girls.
Beautiful girls with nice, beautiful natural hair. That's a whole other conversation. All right. So again, first question. I mean, can you explain what DEI actually is? Because I do think there's a lot of misconception about it. Some people think it's just like affirmative action rebranded. Like, what is DEI?
Okay. And I have to take a minute because I was like, okay, talking to Chardé. Chardé's like a little sister to me. And I'm like, you're telling me people don't know what this is? And some of us is out here working for reals, like in this space. But DEI basically stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if you break it down, it means diversity. It's honoring and acknowledging that there are differences in the workplace and space. So I'm Black. I'm a Black woman. I'm a Black woman who they would say cisgendered woman, who means I'm straight, married to a man, and I'm Black. And so that shapes how I see the world, how I enter into spaces. You have other folks, they're Asian, they're white, they're gay, they're what, you have all that. And the reality is that is part of the American fabric. So that's what diversity is. Just acknowledging we're coming into a space differently. And so certain things land differently, and we can get into that more.
Yeah.
Inclusion is basically, are we having practices and policies that are inclusive of others? Meaning not just, to be frank, white men. And a lot of times that's when you're in a corporate space. I don't know how much of your audience is in that corporate space, but when you get into leadership positions, the policies and practices, whether overtly or covertly, are geared towards white men. A lot of these practices were even put in place before women worked outside of the home. Okay. So you have all that in the inclusion space. What does that look like? And then you have equity. Equity is removing barriers that are overt or covert that have not been helpful and have been discriminatory towards people that are not white men, to be honest. So that's really what it is. No matter what you hear, the hype of DEI, and it's so politicized right now. Everything's right. It's like, oh, it's affirmative action. It's this, is that. I'm like, it's not that. And we can, we can have that conversation, but I'll let you lead it because I'm a talker too.
It's okay. Okay, so basically, your DEI is basically it sounds like it's not just in corporate space, although that's primarily where it's oftentimes used in corporate spaces and things like that. But it sounds like it is a way to basically try to bring more diversity and ensure that everyone's voice is being heard in spaces that were predominantly set up and ran and are still predominantly set up and ran by white men, if I'm understanding correctly.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say this. Let me add on to that. And yeah, it is, I own my own consulting firm in partnership with my partner. We run a DEI consulting firm. And one of our taglines is diversity is a fact, not a goal. So that's the reality. So I want to be careful not to sit here and say, oh, it's about representation, or you're out here trying to gather folks. That's not what it is. The reality is the world is diverse. Whether you're in America or you are, global, there is diversity, and you have to know how to work with diverse groups of people.
Okay.
That's what we're really after. And it's also saying, another tagline of ours, is harness the power of difference, because we are different. And studies have all shown, objective third-party studies have all shown, whether it's Forbes, Fortune, McKinsey & Company, Boston Consulting, they have shown that when you actually do have diverse groups that come together, but that it's inclusive, meaning we know there's diversity, but when you have inclusion in your company or in your organization or in your school, you're getting a better product, right? So, meaning you're able to produce a better product. Your company, your teams, when you're in a corporate space, they make better decisions. They make them at a faster rate, and they're able to service more people. It's not really rocket science if you think about it. It's like if you, let's say I work for Vaseline, let's just say, whoever owns Vaseline, right? You because think how you gonna market to me.
Yeah, that's true.
Be about ash. Like, let's not be ashy. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you mess with Vaseline, they're going to, we got to get our elbows together. Now Vaseline has cocoa butter, branded Vaseline. Like, and it's like, oh, we got cocoa butter and the Vaseline. So we got you on both fronts, y'all.
Right.
But they wouldn't know that if they just had white people just like, oh, we got Vaseline. No, let's get innovative. How else can we market and make more money? Like, let's not get it twisted. America is capitalist. So they're always thinking about how do we make money? Well, it's about putting different people at the table who understands their communities and how do you service them. So that's part of DEI. That's just keeping it real.
No, and that's a real great example, because as somebody, I worked in marketing teams, and I can remember how difficult it was sometimes when you're the minority in a marketing team trying to reach a target audience that no one in that other team understands.
Mhm.
Especially when that other team, they're the ones who are running the company, running the business, making the decisions, and they're completely disconnected from the people that they're trying to reach and target to.
Yeah.
So that's a really great example.
Yeah, I mean, they're real examples. It's like there's a brand out right now. I believe it's called Bevel. Anyways, I was, when I lived in Silicon Valley, I had a relationship with them. But the guy who started it, he worked at I think he worked at Johnson and Johnson at some point, or he went to Johnson and Johnson, and he was like trying to get them to invest and start a part of, to reach a part of the market, which were Black men, because they know they get razor bumps, right? Because of the way our hair grows out.
Right.
He's like, hey, there's a whole market out there y'all are missing.
Right. Absolutely.
They didn't bite. So he started his own company, got angel investors and got funders and VCs, venture caps. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people have this misnomer, this fallacy that DEI is like some kind of, you just got some raggedy folks you trying to bring in the door, and like all of a sudden they're gonna be a CEO and they can barely spell chief. And they definitely can't spell executive. You know, I mean, that's not how it works. I'm like, DEI essentially is making sure that qualified people, and I hate when I even have to say that, especially to a Black audience, because I'm like, if y'all think that people are being put in positions that are not qualified, I want you to check your own bias and racism at the door, self-hate, because I'm like, let me tell you, most of the time we have to work harder and have to be smarter, and stats prove that out. We have to have more education to get the same job that Timmy got.
Right.
That's just that's the reality. We have to have more experience and more education, and we still get paid less. So I'm like, so it's really disheartening when I hear Black folks wrestling with this concept.